Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, and welcome back. Today I have a graphics card. This was given to me by a mate. Says it's running a bit warm for his liking, and this is a R9 290, as you should be able to see here. Right about where is it? There. I don't know how well that'll show. There we go. R9 290. This is the Sapphire Tri-X version. Meaning that I had three fans. Now, the R9 290 itself was always a warm card. The safe operating temperature designated by AMD themselves was 95 degrees, which is insane. 95 degrees is, if anything else gets to that temperature, you start knocking it back a little bit. But this card is, 95 degrees is okay for it. And this card in particular is quite loud with these three fans going. And it does quite often sit, even with these three fans going at about 40-50%, does quite often sit at around 85 to 90 degrees. So I'm going to take this apart. This came out of I believe it was a PB Tech. PB Tech is kind of a New Zealand's, premier computer equipment store. If you need computer equipment, you basically go to them if you're a consumer. Businesses obviously have their own places, but if you're a consumer, you go to PB Tech. And this was inside a pre-built by them, done by, and it was GGPC or XSPC sort of build. So I don't know if this has had the thermal paste changed on it or anything like that. Just that it runs quite warm, and yeah, so let's get into it. So looking at the back, so we got about 10 screws around the outside here. These are all Phillips. What size Phillips? Yep, so this is a Phillips S2 PH1. Screw tray up there. And as I said before, I have no idea. As far as I'm aware, this card's about 5-6 years old. But I have no idea how the actual condition of the thermal paste, if it was changed from the stock stuff when GG were doing their, when PB rather were doing their build of it, because there's no, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't been taken apart before, but there's no like warranty void if removed on any of the big screws here, which is normally normally where it would go. I'm also noticing that around the actual die here, there's a huge amount of memory module space almost entirely circling this, and this is only a 4GB card. So there must be some really tiny RAM modules on this if they need all of that space for it. Like, tiny capacity wise, not physical size wise. So the main board itself, it's got a more rounded style of screw head, whereas the this thing, the PCIe bracket, has a smaller, flatter head screw. Not too dissimilar from the screws that the HP laptop, so I know the Acer Aspire laptop had on it. So now it's just these 4 screws around here. And these are springed. These have a little spring skirt on them. Just a 4-coil spring. and that's just to allow it to have a consistent pressure all around the die. Oh, there we go. Just really sticky. Sweet. Yeah, that is a lot of RAM modules, and the heatsink itself has what they call heat pads, thermal pads, all along each of these little bumps. So each of these actually milled out bumps. So what they've done is they've got a piece of aluminium and they've milled it down and left these lumps here, and all the screws, and there's a lump here as well. Okay. So this has got 3, 4, 5 heat pipes on this particular model. There we got thermal pads all up the wazoo. You go here. With all the thermal pads now removed, they are quite damp still and really sticky, so that's good. They haven't dried out over the time, which means that our memory should be staying reasonably cool. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 memory modules. That's 256 megabytes per module. Why? They're not particularly great modules, as far as I remember. They're just pretty stock standard for the time. I'd like to point out also there is just a little bit of rubber here. This block here is just rubber. There's nothing special about it. There's no traces going in or out. It's just a little spacer. So there's very little thermal paste on this. If I bring this up, that's not much. And the heatsink isn't much better. It's not holding much on it either. I'm just trying to see if this has got a vapor chamber on it. Does not appear to. It appears to just be a solid copper chunk, which then connects to these heat pipes and diverts the heat off. The fins themselves are pretty clean. He hasn't got much dust in the house, and he hasn't got pets, so he doesn't have to worry about the hair. But I will just go and grab some tissue so I can clean that off. This thermal paste is quite dry, so I get the feeling that it's just a case of the paste may have dried out a bit, leading to it being quite so warm. Where are you? Ah, there you are. Like there. So I want quite a small bit. I have a little 1mm bit that I can be using right now. It's going to go around inside of here with this. It is very, very tiny. 1mm. Yeah. It's to 1mm. I understand that that's upside down, but deal with it. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get, honestly. There is only so much you can do. The paste around the around this area is definitely dried on, which is not a bad thing, but it's not great either. So this piece of copper, guessing by that sound, has actually been machined yeah, there's actually a you may be able to make it out actually. There's like a ring. There we go. A ring from whatever did the machining has left like a ring effect. That can't be all too good. Can I see how much of a... There isn't much of a depth difference between high and low. I kind of want to put it on a record player and see if it actually has any effect. I highly doubt it. That would be awesome. Yeah, it's going to put my graphics card on a record player and it's going to play the AMD theme song. Does AMD... Yeah, it'll probably just be the Soviet fucking... That's not it, but dual BIOS switch up here. So I'm assuming one's one will be game mode, one will be silent. The difference will probably be a couple hundred megahertz. If that, probably 100 megahertz. It'll be enough to cool it down, quieten it down. So with graphics cards, I personally prefer to smudge the paste down a little bit. Not a heap, just enough to help it spread properly though. Cool, so you got a nice little layer, and that will in theory get squished down properly. So get out of the way. Yep. I got PWM cable in. So I have to pretend and count to 10. So let's just put on our 4 springy screws. And I'm going to hope that that is in properly. All of them, and now we just got these 2 at the top. See if I can focus this so it's too close. It's perfect distance away. It's still going to be a pain to... There we go. So that's our Tri-X all back together, and I'll give this back to him, and hopefully it runs a bit quieter. I have also, if you feel like watching it, an Asus Aspire F15 teardown, and I have a HP EliteBook 8470p teardown. If you want to give them a look, the 8470p is nowhere near as good because it's at 720p rather than glorious 1080. And I have, if you would like to see it, let me know. But I have a RX 590 Asus ROG card that I can take apart and have a look at and see if there's any major differences in the actual board layout, because this is done by Sapphire, which is basically AMD's in-house third party. I guess that makes sense. They're basically the first people to have them out, but they're not AMD specifically. Oh well, I hope you have a nice morning, a nice evening, and a nice afternoon. And ta-ra, everyone.